On trees, potentially. Well, yeah, I think I'm just going to tackle both these squares because, let me just show you quick. Here's my reference image. This one has almost nothing drawn in it, or nothing to draw on it. And this one just has a little bit. So I think I'm just going to knock out both of those squares, be done with the trees, and then we can move on to the lake here. So it should be an easy day, hopefully. Hopefully easy day. I shouldn't have said that out loud. Okay, let's get to it here. A little adjustment, right there, right there. Boom, 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 boom. Here we go. Okay, so we're gonna start out the same way. Well, maybe I'll just start with an HB actually, because, well, no, let's just do it. Let's just do it the regs way. Okay. So, this is my 2H pencil. And just gonna work in some trees here. And then we'll continue on with our HB and 2B. It should be some pretty light work, hopefully. And over here, we're just got just some trees sort of fading into the shadows here without much real shape. So we're just gonna put some marks over here, build the texture up, but there's no real shape on these trees. Hello, thanks for checking out the live. Here's the full drawing here. Just finishing up this last little section of trees down here. And then Chancellor, thanks for checking out the drawing. Yeah, here's the full thing. And, I've been doing a square a day, but I'm anxious to be done with these trees finally. So I'm gonna knock out these two, and I have a my reference here, this little bottom section here, it's mostly in shadow. So there's not much to even draw there. Hello from Italy. I'm half Italian, half Pakistani. What about you? I am Norwegian, and I live in Washington State. I like your art. Thanks. Thanks, Chancellor. Thanks for the kind words. If people are wanting a succinct tutorial on this process, I have a how to draw a forest tutorial up. But the long and short of it is it's a layering of 2H, HB, and 2B, and you layer them to create contrast and build all that texture. But as I just showed you, these two squares here are mostly in shadow, so there's not a whole lot of real work to do with the texture building today. So that might be a good option if you want to see a better example. Nice to meet you. I love art, by the way. I try to draw a lot of things in Rome. Cool. Yeah, nice to meet you too. God bless you too. I love it. Thanks, everybody. Yeah. I'm a little sleepy because I just woke up from a nap, so I'm sorry I'm a little out of it. It's been a rough day. My name's Lorenzo. Nice to meet you, Lorenzo. Thanks for watching the live. Yeah, so this square is almost, I'd say, 95% shadow. So we're just throwing in, there's a little tree down here. And then this is the lake down here. But just getting these final little details in. Even though these are a couple easy little blocks here, I don't want to get lazy. I hope I get to 1 million. I don't know. I won't hold my breath on that, but that'd be cool. Hi, Haley. Thanks for watching. Let's see. What is Lorenzo? You're very talented, my friend. Thanks. And good day. Good day to you. Hope everybody's having a good Sunday. Okay. Let me show it again now that a few people are on here. So like I have been looking at a reference image here, and these are my two little end blocks here that I'm just finishing up. And see, this is just all shadows. So that's why I normally do 1 block a day, but I'm going to do 2 today because I am anxious to be done drawing these trees and on to the next part. You put a lot of detail into your art. Yeah, I feel like it's a good thing, but also even when I try to do small projects, I get so into the details that any small project turns into a big project. So it's kind of a good and a bad thing. I draw robots and a lot of other things. Hey, whatever excites you, whatever gets you being creative. He does a lot. I love it. I've not left yet. I like your art. It is cool. Thank you. Creativity and a pencil gets you a lot of places. Yeah, I think it can. To date, most of my drawings have just been for myself. Let's see. God will bless you, buddy. Thank you. Do you ever draw with a pen? I do. I haven't on the lives or on my channel at all yet, but I want to get to that. I want to get to that in painting. But so far, most people have just been interested in how I draw. This is a pencil. So far, people have just been more interested in how I draw, but eventually I want to show some of my work with ink and pen, but or painting, but I haven't made it there yet. It's hard to squeeze in everything I want to do between work and family and the tutorials. So it's kind of I'm a little bit slower on some of my stuff that I want to get to. Can you draw an aurora in the North Pole? I would try. I'd probably go for painting with that, just because I would want to get the colors. I've also wanted to try, I've never done it, but do like realistic, really detailed with colored pencils, but I haven't had time to do that. I mostly focus, when I'm not drawing, I mostly focus on painting, which if you check out some of the earlier videos on my channel, I have some of my original artwork where it's archival ink and watercolor. You're really good, bro. Keep it up. Thank you. I'm back. Welcome back. Hello. Okay, so yeah, like I mentioned, this is all like shadows in here, so this is an easy little section. I'm just gonna shade it in. I still want to keep little marks here, just going left to right, because again, little variations I don't mind, and that's gonna be like our little, it's our fir trees kind of hiding back there in the shadows, so I don't want to do like full, lines the width of this little square here. Still want to keep them pretty small, pretty focused. That way, in that little texture is showing anything that is kind of hiding in that texture can be sort of seen as our branches and trees. Okay, let me see. Can you teach me how? Teach you how to draw. Wait, hold on one second. I drew an aurora North Pole. I imagined Santa's factory with lodge cabins for the workers. It was beautiful. Cool. Sounds really cool. Teach you how to draw. We've got a bunch of tutorials on our channel. I'm not quite sure, or this technique. There's again, how to draw a forest. We'll show you this technique on a more exciting little section on one of these back here where there's more trees and stuff. I always liked drawing fairy tales as a kid. Yeah, I used to draw ships on my desk at school with little guys working on the ship, and then my teacher would cover my desk with paper and tape it, so I didn't draw on my desk. So I am varying my pressure a little bit here, even in these little shadowy areas, just because I do want some trees hiding in here, but this is pretty easy work today just to finish off this little corner. And I like to have my sheet of paper bigger so I can sign it down here, and it's easier to mat when I get it framed. And I do kind of like test things out over here every once in a while. You can see that more at the top, where I make little marks. And I kind of do that sometimes if I'm just trying to dull the edge of my pencil so I can make a little softer texture or a little softer application with my lines. This is about the only real tree we're going to see here, so I'm going to just shape this up here quick. Do you use a fixator after finished? No, I do not. How many times do you need to complete it from beginning? I'm not quite sure. I'm not sure I understand the question. How many times? There were a couple of times where I would do little test drawings. I mean, there was definitely a few little sketches before I started on this big one. But I'm not sure if that answers your question. Hey, can you draw a desert? That'd be a challenge. I haven't tried a desert. I'd have to think about how to approach that? So I guess my answer is I haven't yet, but that's something you're interested to learn how to draw. I could see if I can figure it out. Figuring out a good approach to tackle the sand obviously is the key part there. So all these are just sort of like trees fading out into the, or fading down into our shadows. This photo's taken at like 8 in the morning. So the sun was just coming up, 8 in the morning in the fall. So there's no sun hitting down here. So this is all just sort of shadowy little parts of the trees hitting here. That's why it's, there's not a lot of tree shapes down here. More just building this texture as these trees fade into the shadows. And in a minute here, like I've been doing, I'll take a step back. Just make sure everything's looking in line. How many years you learn how to draw? Tough. I mean, I've been drawing since I was a little kid, but since I've been drawing like seriously, and that drawing's a part like of almost any artwork you do, painting. I mean, then I would say maybe 8 or 9 years, maybe a little longer. Plus then when I was a kid. As I got older, like everybody, I got a job and kind of drifted away from it. And then maybe 8 or 9 years ago, I got back into it. I don't mind all these little variations here with the value with my in my shadows, because again, there are trees down here, and your eye, despite looking at a reference image, your eye has the ability to adjust more and pick up a lot of those variations better than the camera. So that's why I don't mind little variations and just keeping my marks really small. But this is, again, just some shadows, some trees hiding in the shadows as it goes down into there's a little lake down here that I'll start on another day. Or I'll finish on another day, I should say. I like, again, looking at my reference image off camera here. I'm not trying to mimic it exactly. It's more for inspiration, but I like, all these little squares are so filled with trees that I like this breaks up, sort of that pattern. Not that it's a pattern, but you want your drawing, if you're trying to draw realistic and drawing nature, you want it to be random. You want it to be natural looking, and not every little section has, individual trees being noticeable and recognizable. There are little variations. So that's why it's good to have a reference image, just for that inspiration, so you can keep things natural looking and in scale. Let's see. Wow, cool. Thank you. You don't care of the time you need. This meditation. I don't know if I call it meditation, but one of my things, which I think is equal to practice, is being patient. And this definitely teaches that. Because I think, if you want to do your best work, you can't rush it. And that's also why I like to work in these little squares, because it forces me to hone in and not sort of focus on a big area where I'll lose sight of details. Just working in a little bit of texture with my eraser here. So, you know, again, besides this one tree, this is really just all shadow, and then just a little bit of variation in those values as things disappear. The bottom of this tree just has some slight, just a little bit of that branch broken down, and then but I like to use my erasers, and I use these whatever pencil erasers, these Faber-Castell ones, because they're really subtle, and I like to sharpen them on some sandpaper, and creates a rough edge, which kind of mimics what we built with the texture in our pencils. And I just do little dabs, again going horizontally, to just work a little bit of those highlights in, and it's super subtle, so it just gives some nice variation again as these trees up here just fade into the shadows right here. You use rubber for the lights. I use it to enhance my highlights, and you can be really subtle with them, because again, these trees are just fading away here. But that's one of the good things about this technique is it's hard to make mistakes. Or it's hard to make mistakes you can't fix, I should say. How many hours it took you to draw this? Few hundred maybe. So here's what I like to do at this point. I'm pretty happy with this little section we did. I like to just make sure it's in line with everything and doesn't stand out or draw attention to it. It seems to be in line. Again, we're fading into the shadows down here. And just for reference, I'll show everybody again. This is the reference image of the mountain, right? Whoa. So here's the drawing, or the reference image. And the forest, I'm not trying to get perfect, but these are the two little squares I'm drawing right here. And see, it's just all shadow. So I have that tree on the left, and then this is just all shadow. That being said, let's just knock out this last square here. So we got this one tree here. See you in a month. Yeah, hopefully in a month I'll be done, but we'll see you. Thanks for watching and asking questions. I'm really impressed by your courage. Thank you. Even on this little tree here, I want to get some of these darker shadows with my 2B pencil. You know, where all those branches come into the center here, there's going to be some. And then again, we're just fading out into the shadows down here. And right down here is these are going to be just one little section of the lake. But these are some of the, this is definitely one of the easier little squares. Just shading it all in. Again, if you can see just slight differences. It's not as dramatic as it looks on the phone. On the phone, these almost look like they're little white dots, but it's actually more of a lighter gray. Again, those are just little branches hiding in the shadow, so I don't mind that it's not perfectly solid. This is all shadow down here. And just shade in the bottom of this tree a little bit. You don't want to, you know, don't get lazy on some of these shadows going into your trees. Even though this is the very bottom right corner of this drawing. Let's see. It's very pleased to share your techniques. How did you learn this technique? When I started this, I mean, I draw a lot of trees, and I kind of just was playing around, practicing. And then I came up with this little dot technique, just because it was more born out of kind of like I wanted to draw trees at this scale. So it's just practicing, you know, threw away a few sheets of paper that I didn't like, how it turned out, and then just kept honing it in. But I try to challenge myself to draw new things or different things that I don't know how to draw. Or, if there's a challenge in it. And this one, the challenge was the scale and how to make this forest appear, obviously with just monochrome pencils and not ink. Seems to be easy yet difficult at the same time. That's a good way to describe it. But again, I think the most difficult part is the patience. And like if you watch the How to Draw a Forest tutorial, you know, like when you're drawing it, you can get so into the little section you're drawing that you see all these things you don't like. Whereas, you know, you pop out to the wide shot now and it's like you would never see it, but when you're drawing this one square, you might see a bunch of things. So yeah, it's a good way to describe it. It's easy and difficult at the same time. But with practice, it becomes easier. And you just you get into a rhythm. Oops. Just adding a little bit of texture back in, and then it fades down into our shadowy lake down here, which we'll start working on next time. Just doing a little finessing here. So for those, I don't know if there are new people, with this eraser, it's really subtle, and what I like to do is rough up the end on some sandpaper, and then it enhances our texture. So I'm just, with little, and it's accurate, so with just little dots, I'm just putting in a little bit of texture because it erases unevenly, and I'm just lifting up that top sort of layer of graphite where it's just super subtle and delicate with it. And then here we got our trees that are just sort of blobs as they disappear. The sunlight's coming from right to left here, so I'm just putting a little bit of highlight back on this tree here. Again, being super subtle with it. So now, like I did earlier, that was all shadow there, but just making sure everything is in line and doesn't stand out. Again, the square I just finished is this one right here, which is almost 100% shadow. So I got my two little trees. Those are my two little trees, but other than that, I think it's all good. We're finally finished off those trees there. Now, continue on with the lake. But everything looks in line, and nothing standing out in a bad way. All right, well, thanks for watching, everybody. I will check you out next time. That's gorgeous. Thanks so much. See you next time. Working on the lake.